This video is going to walk you through how to complete the communities coloring plate that went home tonight for homework. I'm going to go through about half of it with you, and I'm going to show you two different ways that you can do this depending on how you choose to complete this and what works best for you with your learning. So go ahead, if you don't already have this out in front of you, get your colored pencils. You may want a highlighter, and I am going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go through and you need to read the content on the back or on this page. It says, no living organism exists entirely by itself. It is always profoundly influenced by its environment. The branch of biology that studies the relationships between living organisms and their environments is known as ecology. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this because ecology is one of our vocab words, and that is what we're studying right now, so I want to make sure that I remember what that means. Ecologists concentrate much of their study on communities and ecosystems. Again, two more vocab words that I want to make sure that I'm able to pay attention to. A community is defined as all of the organisms living in a given area and interacting with one another. There's the definition for communities, if I wasn't sure what it was before or I struggled with that on our mini assessments, it's right there in my reading to review. An ecosystem is a community plus all of the non-living components of its environment. I'm going to go ahead and also underline that because, or highlight that because ecosystem is again one of our vocab words. I also want to make a note on here about the non-living components because I'm going to make a connection with my reading. I know that non-living is the same thing as abiotic. Abiotic meaning not, or a meaning not, and bio meaning life, so no life. Okay. This plate, and remember when we refer to a plate, we're not talking about a dinner plate or something you eat off of. We're talking about the coloring page or the coloring diagram that you're going to be completing. So this plate shows some of the components of a typical biological community and their relationships. When we're talking about environments and ecosystems, it's not just important to recognize what's in those ecosystems, but more importantly, we need to notice the connections and the relationships and the interactions going on between all of the organisms that live there. So you'll notice, just like the last time, our directions on how to color is in bold. So here it says, color the heading Trophic Levels, Title A, and the corresponding part of the illustration. So again, I told you there are two different ways that you can do this, and I'm going to show you both of them. The first one is I'm going to take out my gray colored pencil or my black colored pencil, because if I flip my paper over, I'm going to notice where I see the word trophic levels, and with the last coloring plate we had, anything that had a star next to it, I colored gray. And just for me, I want to stay consistent, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to outline trophic levels in black because I don't have a gray colored pencil. You can make this any color you want. You don't have to do gray or black. That's just what I'm choosing to do. Then it tells me to color Title A. So again, there are two different ways you can do this. I'm going to show you one option right now, and then I will show you the second one, and you can decide what you choose to do. So when I think producers, I think green, because I'm thinking producers are plants. Plants are usually green. So I'm going to color in, or just outline, producer in green. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my paper and I'm going to find the illustration for letter A, because next to producer up here, you'll see the letter A. So all of my plants, all of my producers are down here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color that green. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm asking you to at least take some time with it. Don't just scribble, but you know, if you go a little out of the lines, that's fine. I'm not looking for an artistic masterpiece. You can take your time, but again, this activity really shouldn't take you all that long to do. So if I have all of my plants right here, and there are some flowers in there, and if you want to go ahead and color those so they're a different color, you're more than welcome to do that. Again, this is going to be what is best for you and your learning. So if you want to add additional colors to this, you can, but you don't have to. You can keep all this green. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. So now that I've colored that heading green, and I've gone down here and I've colored my plants, now the other way that you can do this, okay, is I'm still going to color my trophic levels black or gray, whatever you choose. And I'm still going to make my producer heading green. But if I wanted to come down to the bottom and I wanted to color in these flowers or make this plant a different color, I may just go and find the letter A and shade that one in green. And then I'll come in here and I'll color some of this stuff green. But I may want to come in here and color the flowers a different color and just bring in more of the colors. It doesn't have to be 100% consistent. So here's my green in here. And then if I wanted to color in some of these flowers with pink here. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you this next part where it says color title B and the corresponding parts of the illustration. So if I flip over and I look where it says herbivore, I am, just because I want to, I'm going to make the herbivores blue. Now here's, like I said, here's where it gets a little different if you choose to do so. Now for me, right now, I'm trying to recognize the different types of organisms that fit in a specific trophic level. And remember, trophic levels are based upon how they get their energy. So we're starting with our herbivores, which are our primary consumers. So it's also marked with a letter B, which you'll see right here. So if I go down here and I see here are my B animals, I'm going to keep this coloring similar to my heading up here so I can recognize that all of these are herbivores. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color all of these organisms the color that matches that particular label. And I know it's not necessarily realistic because you're not going to see a blue grasshopper or a blue bunny outside of maybe a movie, but it's all about me being able to recognize the types of organisms that fit into each trophic level. And if I'm bringing in the colors, it might be a little bit easier for me to understand or to recognize. Now, some of you having blue squirrels and blue rabbits are going to drive you crazy. So, like I said, I'm going to show you another way that's completely acceptable to do. If you want to take a little bit more time and make these illustrations a bit more realistic, you can do that as well. But again, it does not have to be something in depth. It doesn't have to be exact and precise and beautiful. It is something that is meant to help you learn where each of these roles are. So, like I said, here is the other option that you can do. Again, I'm going to go with herbivores being blue. It can be any color you want it to be. I would stay away from making it green because you don't really want to have colors overlapping. So unless you're doing maybe a bright green and a really dark green, but again, it's up to you. So my primary consumer, okay. Now if you want to be a bit more realistic with these drawings, what you can do is you can go to the letter B and you can just color in whatever color you made your heading around the letters, and then you can choose to make these drawings a bit more realistic, where I may decide that I want my grasshopper to be green because most grasshoppers are green, and I can come in here and I can color this one this color. And on the last plate, when we did a bunny rabbit, the bunny rabbit was brown. So in this one, I want to be consistent, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to color this bunny rabbit brown. Even though my heading for primary consumers and herbivores is blue, I'm still recognizing that these are part of that blue heading because I've shaded in the letters. Okay? So you have an idea of how I'm suggesting maybe you can break it down that way, or you can do it this way. It's entirely up to you. Let's go back and look at this next section, and then you will have an opportunity to just continue working on your own and finish this up. So feeding directly on the producers are the herbivores, also known as primary consumers. Familiar members of this group include grasshoppers, butterflies, and other herbivorous insects, rabbits, squirrels, mice, and seed-eating birds, which a lot of those you saw on the back. So now it says color title C in the corresponding parts of the illustration. So I'm going to, again, flip back over to my coloring plate, and I am looking at my primary carnivore, which is my secondary consumer. And I am going to make this guy, or these organisms, orange. Again, they can be any color you want them to be. You can make them realistic in coloration, or you can make them match what you are doing with the label. Just remember, if you are choosing to make them realistic, that you shade in those letters so you can recognize which organisms go with which label. And the primary consumers, or the secondary consumers, primary carnivores, are going to be marked with a C. So if you look down here, you'll see this is a C here, the owl, as well as the frog. So again, you can go in here and you can make it match the heading, and I can make all of this orange. Including this tree, because I want to keep it consistent. I can color the owl orange, and the frog. If that's how you're choosing to do it, that's completely fine. If you want to do it the other way, color in your heading, which for the sake of time, I'm not going to go ahead and shade that in, but I am still going to do it orange. So I'm going to go to my organisms, and I'm going to shade in my letter C's over here, and then color in my organisms realistically.